So Cindy, we clean the air, but don't move, okay? Because wouldn't you agree that almost everything inside of our homes collects and hides dirt? The carpets, the furnishings, right? This stuff's everywhere. If you go out in the garden and you pull a weed, but you leave the root, what happens?
It'll come back.
It grows back, right? Okay? And we've been trying to get rid of dust and dirt inside of our homes for hundreds of years. And I don't know how you feel about it, but it seems to me like everything's evolving except for our cleaning tools. And I'm sure you've used some of these tools before,
Oh, yeah.
right? And when we dust, where does the dust go?
In the air.
And eventually?
It falls back down.
Exactly. We sweep, we get the big stuff, but where does the dust go?
In the air.
And when we really want to try and clean, we use a vacuum. Have you ever had the feeling, Cindy, like you're just rearranging the dust?
Oh, yeah.
Just moving it from one place to another? And if I told you, Cindy, that you had something that was hiding inside of your house, it was lurking around here, it was causing sickness and colds and flus, would you want to get it out of the house?
Oh, yeah.
Are you sure?
Oh, out.
All right. Well, show me where your vacuum sweeper is. I'm going to show you something that can help you. Where is it at?
In the garage.
In the garage. I'll just grab it, okay? Right up here.
Can't miss it.
All right. Looks like we've got a Bissell. And I'm not here, Cindy, to pick on your vacuum today, okay? Promise not to. What we're going to do is we're going to use this as an example of all vacuums. Because you can spend a wide range of money on vacuums. You can spend upwards of $3,000 and $4,000 on the very expensive TriStars and Kirby's and Electrolux and all those. Or you can spend between $100 and maybe $800 at Kmart, Walmart, and discount stores on things like Bissells, Sharks, Dirt Devils, and Dysons, and you know, the cheaper vacuums, right?
Yeah, I had one of those Dysons.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you guys see where I put my book? Oh, it's over here. Vacuums, Cindy, were invented over 100 years ago. And when vacuums were invented, they had 4 parts. And over 100 years later, guess how many parts they have?
4.
Yeah, they really haven't changed at all. And if you were doing what I'm doing, and Phil, you've seen this on every demo you've been on so far, right? Every vacuum has an intake, a motor, a bag, or some sort of a filtering device. And if the air comes into this machine, it has to go where?
Into the canister.
Okay. Yep. And if it comes into the canister, it has to go back out, right? And do you know where the exhaust is on this one by chance?
Right there.
Okay, it could be. Let's just go ahead and turn it on and find out where the air's coming out, okay? And you were right. Go ahead and feel. Go ahead and feel there, Phil. Oh! Man! Woo! Go Rainbow, go! Sorry about that. Now, I know it's not a fair comparison, Cindy, but compared to the Rainbow, does the vacuum smell really good or kind of bad to you?
Smells really bad.
Smells really bad, right? And if you had to describe that vacuum smell as either healthy or unhealthy, how would you describe it?
Obviously unhealthy.
It's obviously unhealthy, right? So, Cindy, I have a confession to make. I turned your vacuum on for a reason. And the reason is, I knew it would have an odor. You know why?
Why?
They all do. Because every vacuum you've done on a demo so far had an odor to it.
Yep.
Right? And the reason that they have an odor, Cindy, is that the vacuums do create an unhealthy condition inside of the home. And the number one reason is that the bags and the filters on every vacuum are porous. Now, if we just use yours as an example, okay, we got the air coming up into here, kind of comes down into here, and this is kind of your first initial filter right here.
Okay.
Now, anything bigger than those holes is going to stay down in the canister, but if it's smaller than those little slats, it's going to pass through, right?
Right.
So then what the vacuum company did is they put another filter right down here. Did you know this was here?
No.
A lot of people don't realize that one's even there. Now, is it fair to say that these filters right here are porous?
Yes.
They have to be, right, to allow the air through. If they weren't porous, these filters would blow up like a balloon and pop. Have you ever heard of anybody dying from an exploding vacuum?
No.
No. Now, porous, Cindy, by definition, means full of holes. Let me ask you a question. Does it make sense to try and clean your house with a filter full of holes?
No.
Vacuum companies know that they have this problem, Cindy, and it's not just yours, I promise, okay? The expensive ones, the cheap, they all do the same thing. But what the vacuum companies are doing is they're adding additional filters, and on this one they actually put you another filter right down inside of here, and that one actually looks like it's missing, but it wouldn't be doing much different anyways. It would be porous, right, which means full of holes. Now, the other problem is obviously sending odors from the bag into your room while you're vacuuming. It's also a fact that bacteria multiply in a warm, dark, filthy environment. Would you agree this is probably one of the filthiest places in your home?
Yes.
Kind of like the general trash can of the home?
Yes.
What kind of stuff do you think ends up down inside there?
Bugs. Dead bugs.
Dead bugs.
Little bugs.
Little bugs you don't see. It's like a little party for dust mites down in there.
God.
Okay. Food. All the stuff that we drag in from outside. Hair. Right? Gosh, who knows? All sorts of unhealthy things. And then what happens is that we warm them up over a hot engine. We stick it in a dark closet where it cools down, and it actually creates moisture, and it's a perfect breeding ground for germs and bacteria. MIT did a study, Cindy, and they found that just 1 gram, basically a thimbleful of what's down inside of here, contains on average 5 million germs. Things like strep, staph, a whole bunch of other dangerous bacteria I couldn't even pronounce if I tried to. Oprah did an episode as well on indoor health, and she had a case study. The lady picked up a tiny piece of raw chicken, Cindy, didn't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Salmonella grew inside of her vacuum, and her family contracted salmonella 5 times until they realized it was spreading from the vacuum.
That's gross.
Now here's how I explain it. Cindy, I know you'd never take a glass of milk or whatever your favorite beverage might be, pour it in the top of this vacuum, let it strain down through all that filth and germs and bacteria, catch the chocolate milk at the bottom, right? And drink it or give it to the kids. You'd never do that.
No.
But I mean this sincerely and from my heart, Cindy. Does it make any more sense to take the air you're breathing, your family's breathing, pass it through a bacteria-infested environment full of germs and filth and all that unhealthy stuff, and then blow it back out in the home for your family to breathe?
No.
Just doesn't make sense. And how do we know that there's bacteria, Cindy, in there? Because the bacteria cause what?
Objectionable odors.
See, you could do this. See, you can read it. You can do this, right? Now, would you like to eliminate that problem once and for all,
Yes.
if you could?
Yes.
Now, Dr. Zan, what he says is that vacuums present a problem. They're by far the most effective device for removing dust, and yet, he says, most of them pollute more than they clean. They suck in dust from surfaces, blow the small particles through the filter into the air. Particles, because of their very small size, Cindy, slide through our body's filtering mechanism, basically our nose, to lodge deep into our lungs. Now, Cindy, if I was to turn your vacuum sweeper back on, which I'm not going to do right now, okay?
Thank you.
And we were to shine the light on the exhaust of this, what would we see coming out?
Probably dust.
Mm-hmm. And I know this is a really silly analogy, but if you had hired a cleaning service and you walked in and they were taking handfuls of what's inside of your vacuum and they were just throwing it in the air and you said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "We're cleaning." What would you do with them?
I'd fire them.
Right? Would you ever hire them back?
Never.
And here's what's crazy. Cindy, if we wouldn't take it from a human, does it make any more sense to take it from a vacuum?
No.
It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does
No.
it? Now I got to go back to my notes because sometimes I forget where I'm at. But don't they make this easy to do? Can you believe that we're getting paid to do this?
Mhm.
And you can actually get one of these for free. And like I said, how are you coming on your names? Because I want you to make sure we have at least 12 down. So if you know anybody that cares about Cindy Clean Air, that really, probably would be disgusted if they really saw what was happening with their vacuum. Anybody else that you know that would maybe have any allergies or breathing issues, kids, pets, that kind of stuff, go ahead and write them down. So, Cindy, real quick, did you know that was coming out of your vacuum when you turned it on?
No.
No. How many germs do you think we just blew all over the house?
God. Too many?
Would you agree that vacuums pollute the environment?
Yes.
And it's not just this one, it's all of them. Knowing that, Cindy, this is a really important question. Do you ever want to turn one on ever again?
No.
If I could also show you that they don't clean, would you have any need for one in your home?
No.
I mean, if they weren't picking anything up off the floor and they're polluting the way that they are, of course, we'd never use them, right?
Right.
Okay.